So let's get started. Hello, everybody just joining us. And if you're watching this back on YouTube, I'm Donna and this is Riverside Beads. We're a beading and crafting shop for Riverside Crafts here in Market Deep in Peterborough. So we've also got our online store as well that you can check in for all of our sparkly goodies. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe as well to our channel to receive notifications of these. We do go live on Facebook every Wednesday as well. So today is Crystal Kumihimo. So it's these beautiful 6mm faceted crystals, the Preciosa seed beads in a size 5 and a size 8 as well. So this is what we're going to be making. Now I'm going fresh from the kit today as well. So I've got my cord pre-prepared out. I've not actually gone for the same colour as you would get in the kit. So with this one, we do tend to tone the colour. So I'll open up the kit so you can see exactly what you get and how you get it as well. So you get your instructions in there and you get everything you're going to need in the kit too. So you will get your end cap, which comes right at the end. We glue that on. You get your beautiful crystals. Let's get some of those out. Ready? So your lovely 6mm faceted crystals. I don't know if the screen does it justice for the sparkle that you get from those gorgeous beads. They are just absolutely stunning. They're faceted and they're multifaceted, so they really catch the light, like almost a mini football, I suppose, is how I would describe them. And you know how the footballs are shaped, and all the flat sides just catch the light beautifully. So there's plenty of those. I think the kit goes up to like a 8.5, 9-inch bracelet if need be. And you can always sort of add a bit more cord to get that size that you need. These are the size 8s in a nice, and this one, they're in a nice matte teal. It's actually an AB, so the Aurora Borealis finish on them, and then a frosted one. I think they describe it as matte, so it's got a real, so all of these beads that are in this kit, you've just got some beautiful shimmer going on. This one is our, I can't remember what these are called online, but they're a size 5 teal. Again, you get that real luster effect from those. They're a pearlized, I think is probably the best way to describe them. So they're the teal opaque ones with a pearlized coating. I just love these. It just gives them a beautiful coating on them as well. So these are the beads that we're going to use. The end cap can be popped to one side ready for later. And I've already prepared my cord because I wanted to now varnish my ends. I didn't have this one to hand, but we've put this on a card for you. There's about 5 meters. You'll use around 4. But just in case you overcut them, we thought if we get you a little bit extra. So everything you'll need if you go for it is in this kit. 6mm faceted, size 8s and size 5s. And then you need your Kumihimo disc as well. Now this particular kit is just a top-up kit to make this, although it does come with instructions. So you know, if you need a Kumihimo disc, make sure that you grab yourself a Kumihimo disc for that as well. I am going to show you some bobbins as well, which can be useful to hold onto your cord and grip it. So what I've done in advance is cut this into 4 1-meter lengths, which is generally enough for a bracelet. We have done some beginners videos, and my book, A Beginner's Guide to Kumihimo as well, will explain a little bit more if you need the full science of it all, but it's 3 times the size you need your finished bracelet to be. So a bracelet you wouldn't wear completely tight on your wrist, so you measure it up how you'd want the bracelet. You know, do you want it a little bit loose like that? And you would times that by 3. Now with a bracelet, I tend to not go much below 1 meter of cord, just to give me that space, because you need that extra bit of space for braiding. You need a bit to prepare your ends, and if they go floppy, you want to be able to put your nail varnish on those again. So I tend to just allow myself 1 meter, and that would do a fair size bracelet. So what I've done, I've cut that into 4 1-meter lengths, and I've prepared my cord, the end of it. Now to prepare this, I get a nice sharp pair of scissors, a little fine nose pair of scissors, an embroidery scissor or something, and I cut it on an angle. And then I take my clear nail varnish, and the way I actually do it, I put a plastic bag underneath it. I won't do it again because it will make this end soft, which is no good. I can do it on this end to show you, just this spare bit of cord. But what I do, just so you can see how I do it, I don't put lots of nail varnish on. It's not lots as such you need. It's about getting it coated all the way around. So I coat it on the top there, and I almost turn it a little and just coat it and pull it through again. So because you're doing it on plastic, it puts it underneath and then puts it on top as well. So that you would prepare all those. So I pre-did these the other night just to have them ready to thread my beads on, because I was doing some Kumihimo on telly today as well. So I just prepared everything we needed. That then becomes like a little needle. Now this won't be, okay, that's soft. I'm just going to wipe that off so I don't get myself in a sticky mess. But these ones that I've prepared, let dry, they're like little needles. So nice and sharp on, not sharp on the end, pointed, I should say, to give you a point to pick up your beads with. And because they're solid, that's perfect for fitting your threads on. So that's often one of the challenges when I teach this as a class. Often people will sort of say to me, oh, how do we, prepare our cords properly? That's crucial to me. And I don't just do that in Kumihimo. If I'm ever doing any cord work with beading, macrame, or anything that I feel the need to do that with, that's always a top tip really for preparing your cord effectively. So what I've done is then taken a spare piece of cord and tied it in the center of my cords, and I put this into the middle of the disc. So this is the same process, this bit, that we would do for any Kumihimo. This is an 8 warp Congo Gumi Kumihimo. So it's laid out with the cords either side of north and south and east and west. On my particular disc, it's marked up in that way. So what I'm doing, I'm holding the center because I've got a small disc and I can sort of reach the center. It doesn't matter if you've got a large disc. And I'm going to put them cords either side there. Holding the center will just stop me over pulling those to one side. So I'm just checking which one that is attached to. So it's attached to the north and south. That one's over there. Let's just get these. They got a bit tangled in the process of setting these up. That one's over there. So I'm going to put these just for ease on the opposite sides to where the cord is coming. Just bear with me. Just tangled in the middle. This isn't essential. This is just a bit of a preference of mine, where I can, just to get those neat, just to get you started. So that should do me there. So I've tied it. You can see I've got these nice and taut. So they're in position. And they're nice and taut across the disc as well. So my cords are there and I've got my ends prepared ready. Now I'm not going to put the beads on yet because I'm going to just braid a section without any beads on. One, because we need it to glue the end caps in. We glue this bit with no beads on, unless you wanted to start with beads quite soon and then you could put a bigger end cap over it. But for these crystally ones, you'd have to go ever so big. So I tend not to there. So I'm taking my top right cord down to my bottom right, and I'm taking my bottom left cord up to my top left. Now I'm not going to focus too much on this part of the technique. If you feel the need to, do go back and watch one of our beginners braiding videos on this, because when this becomes second nature, you will find that the beaded part of it is a lot easier. So those of you that are sort of thinking, oh yeah, I'm ready to have a go at this now, this will just give you a quick recap on the process of right down, left up. So top right down, left, top bottom left up, but it needs to become a bit more comfortable doing that, and then you'll find the beading process an awful lot easier, because you won't have to think about this while you're doing this, and then you can just think about where the beads go, how to add them in. So what I'm doing on this one, this is a disc that has been previously used. It's had cord left in it, it's had samples left in it around the shop. So this one is actually probably widened a little bit in the holes, a bit wider than I would want it to be. So what I'm doing, just to stop any slipping on there, it's not too bad when I've put that in, but because I'm taking it down from 2 down to 1, if that's a great example, I'm doing that on purpose to over pull it, and that will cause a bit of an issue in your point of braiding. So I've pulled that one to correct it. But what I'm doing is I'm just gently with my thumb, just holding that other side, and it will just, because I naturally switch my hands anyway when I braid, it will just stop it over pulling to one side. Once we get the bobbins and things on, that will give you a little bit of weight on it as well. So that is my section done underneath there with no beads on. So that's ready to glue into the end when we get to that stage. So I'll just get that all tightened up. Now, if you notice, I put 3 down there. That's just so I know where I am when I come back. But I'm going to pop that back up there for now, so I know which ones I'm threading my different cords onto. So I'm going to get a little section prepared, and our pattern will explain which beads to put where. which cords that you put those on. But you could load these in whichever way you want. Just remember, you've only got so many of each bead in the kit to use. So it's 2 of the cords have size 8s on, 4 of them have these on, and 2 of them have the crystals on. We also do some 4mm crystals, which look really cute. And those of you that are beadbox members with Riverside Beads will have had some 4 and 6 mil. So you can see the difference. And the 4 just come up that little bit smaller. They look really nice for bracelets, and they braid a little bit more delicately, I guess. So I'm going to thread on, let's make sure I get this right. Not that it massively matters which side of it they go on as such. Well, you can do it one or the other, but I'm just going to pop, I think it's that on my size 8 on there. So I've sort of, yeah, they should really be on 32, but I've allowed in my head that they're going to go there. So you can see what I'm able to do is take the thread that's already been nail varnished to give us that strength on there. And I'm taking that and I'm able to use that as a little needle. So then it's this one here, the opposite right one, and you do the same there. So I'm just popping 5 on. And that will give me a section just to, if I braid that through, you'll just start to see the braid coming through and get the principles of it. Okay, that's that one. Then I've got to do my size 5. So I pop them onto these cords here. It actually goes on the right cord of all little sections there. So again, needle, the cord that is almost, I always describe it as a needle because it really is a needle-like. And then I pop that on there. And I pop them back in place. So I take one out at a time, load up the beads as needed, and then pop it back in place. On like that. 4, 5, and then load that back in place. So we carry that on all of the different cords until we've got those loaded up. Now, I personally, when I braid, like to braid with them on the top, but I do find less people like that than perhaps getting them tucked underneath. That one didn't quite go on the cord, so rather than disturb the end of the nail varnish, I'm going to put that to one side, and I can always try and just poke a pokey tool or something through it, or a little bead reamer, just in case there's just a little bit of something blocking that. But if you carried on persisting with that one, it would sort of distort the end of that cord that you've created, which is going to make your life a lot easier. So okay, let's get those loaded. That's 5 on there, so that's my ones there. And then I've just got my last 2, which are my crystals. So I'm going to get my 6mm, these are, and these are I think they're called Teal luster on our website. If you just want the crystals on their own, which we do sell. These are exclusive to us. We've had these manufactured in my favourite colour, conveniently. And I just love them. They're so cute. We've got a few 6mm crystals that we've had made and coated in particular colours. So with the nice pearlised AB sort of, it's not quite an AB, it's a pearlised, I think we've described it as on the website. It's just that extra little lustre, which just, I mean, the crystal's lovely with the facets anyway, but with this extra coating on it, it just makes them beautiful. So nearly there. Just doing 5, and you tend to find with this only really 5 fit comfortably on the top anyway, but I'm going to show you, and I'm going to put these down on the bobbins so I don't overcomplicate what's going on the top. That's that one, and that goes in place there. Okay, so they're all loaded now and ready to go. So now what I'm going to do is just take them out and put bobbins on. Now bobbins, when they come, will be closed like that, and they're like a little rubberized bobbin. You pop them open and you wind the cord on. Now, because you've taken that time to get that end in how you want it, I tend to leave that out of the bobbin, so I'm, again, not wrapping it round and softening the cord as I'm going. So round there, and then clip that closed, and then that can go back in. Well, you can drop the beads actually down onto it if you want. If there's only 5, they can just drop on. If you wanted, you can roll them up inside there. This one again, we should just take that, get that to the end. Wrap that round, not all the way up, because you start using this cord as you braid, so you don't want to go too far up, but comfortable enough just to get those, so you've got a bit of cord but they're not getting tangled. So 1, they stop your cord tangling, and 2, because I said, if you remember, this disc is not the tightest fit. I haven't practiced what I preach. I always say keep a separate disc, mark it up, and make sure it is just for your S-long, which is your cord that we're using here, but I haven't on this occasion. So I don't know if it's been used. Also, the ones I use in the shop get handled as well, so it may not. I just need to go a little bit more there. Have you noticed? I've done it, wound it up a little bit tight, so I'm just going to drop that cord down. It's actually eaten my end of my cord in there, but hopefully it's just taking it in gently, so that should be okay. You can stop, re-nail varnish it. That is certainly an option if you need to. So I just persist with these. My bobbins are already open. You'll just pop yours open. And for Congo Gumi, for 8-strand Kumihimo, you would need obviously 8 bobbins. They come in packs of 4, so you just need to remember to grab 2 if you need bobbins. Hopefully they're back on stock online. They have arrived, and some of the weighted ones. I've got a feeling they're not back online, but I'll get them reinstated after the demonstration. As long as, and if you're watching it back on YouTube, it depends where we're at with our stock levels. So on the wrong end. So put that on there, roll that round, put it somewhere there. Like so, drop that down. And then 2 more to go. I wanted to show you the full process today, so it did just mean sitting and watching me do some of these bits. But I love Kumihimo. So for those of you that follow Riverside and maybe I can see some faces coming up to our live that have been with us for years. I'm on my 2nd book on Kumihimo. I absolutely love it. The possibilities with it are just endless. And I still use it as my relaxing thing to do. I still use it as my car journey activity. Anything that I need to do where I'm going trains, planes and automobiles, I take my Kumihimo with me. You just need to pre-prepare your cord. I find that easier the night before. Put my beads in my stash, and kids are getting a bit old to play I Spy now, so after I've convinced them to entertain me with I Spy for a while, I do a bit of braiding generally. So there we go, we're good to go. Now, what I've done is, obviously, you can see the time it's taken me to do that. I've only loaded 5. In reality, if you're comfortable as a braider, you would probably get quite a few more loaded up there. Okie dokie. So here we go. Let's have a look at the process. So my beads, I don't necessarily even need a bead mat really. I tend to just use it as a bit of a base just to keep everything on, but in reality I would often pull this onto my lap and sit, like I say, I do it in cars, I do it sitting on the sofa, watching a movie or something with the kids, and I would just pull it onto my lap so it's more comfortable and you're not kind of working at a workspace like you have to for lots of beading projects. So here we're ready to go. We've done our section, ready to put our end caps in, and now we're ready to bead. So what we're going to do is bring our cord up, and as we do, we're going to drop a bead in. So I'm dropping a bead in, I'm tucking it where it needs to be under the cord. That's the crucial part of it, and it needs to stay there. So it looks like it's going to jump out, just keep an eye on it. Next one bead under the cord that is crossing. We can get that there and pop that in place. Now, after you've been 1 repetition round, it's sort of, this is called the point of braiding in the center, and it opens up the point of braiding by going around the collection and adding all the beads. So then after the first one round, it is easier to put your beads in place. So I'm going my next cord, dropping a bead in but putting it in place. So always remembering that right to right, left to left, but this time, each time I'm going, and this is an every bead pattern, I'm popping a bead down each time I go. So you're using a bead from each cord, and then as you're going, you're tucking it under there. Now we have tried to put a close-up in the pattern for you, so you can put the bead right under there, and hopefully you'll be able to see. Now the other option is you end up with it sat on the top, which is actually a pattern in itself. And those of you that have got my book, there's an inside out pattern, and that's certainly another way to do Kumihimo. But for this one where you want the bead sat on the outside, your cord frame, I guess, your core is running through in the middle, as opposed to on the inside out one, it sits on the outside and your beads go in the middle as well. Okay, so a good question just come through on our live there, or a comment as such. When you're flying, there's no metal. Absolutely. So I briefly mentioned that, but I figured we're currently in the middle of COVID still, and we're not particularly flying. I didn't go to say too much more. What I said, I prepare my cord in advance is what I do, and by that I meant you're absolutely right. You can't take scissors on the airplanes, or needles for that matter. Like, you know, no knitting or anything. So wouldn't take your scissors through the airport. You put them in your suitcase and send it through. And so if I find that it just goes really wrong while I'm on the flight and I can't, my cord gets soft or something, I just wait till I get there and re-prepare it and then do it by the pool or whatever. But yeah, so prepare it, don't take your scissors on, have this all ready to go. This is the bit you can do on the plane, and you're good to go with that. So yeah, it's a great point to make. Yeah, I have a little box with it all in though when I'm in the car, so I just have my bobbins in case I decide I need them, or I've picked up a disc that I've not followed my rules on. So I have my bobbins, I have perhaps a spare disc, some nail varnish, little pair of scissors in there, and it's like my little essential Kumihimo kit. I'll have to share it with you one time. But it's a great project to do when you're on lunches and when you're on breaks and things like that as well. So Julie's just said that. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so compact, isn't it? It saves you sort of getting lost on Facebook or whatever for an hour. Achieve something to make something pretty at the same time. So what I've been doing, I've been braiding as you've been going, so we can just sort of see how it works. And I just want to show you one, again, going under. So as I've dropped a bead, it goes under the cord. So I've pushed it under with my nail. Some people use a little pokey tool or a cocktail stick or something. Push that under and then pop that cord in place. So same the other side, popping one under. So sometimes it'll just be your friend and it will slide under by its own accord. And then we turn that there. So this one here has got one of our small beads on. Now it dropped two by mistake. Remember, you're only putting one at a time. So that's what you've got to check. So as well as remembering, put your bead in place, you've got to check it goes under, that the second one hasn't jumped under, that it stayed under and not popped out on the top, which is the inside out version of it. Because if you try and do a combination of them, I haven't had great results with that. That does just kind of look messy, whereas each individual braid on its own looks really effective. So this 6mm crystal as well is rather large. So when you put it in, just make sure it sits sort of like, you can almost, I don't know if this explains it correctly, but slide it along so it sort of sits in place. So you're not over pulling it. Again, if you need to, hold that other side of cord that I was mentioning at the beginning, and that will hopefully keep that in place. It's certainly a more of a challenge getting those 6mm in. And then pop the other side in. Now, the other tip I would give you with this one, sometimes you can hold it in there. So I'm almost holding that with my nail to allow me to put that in without worrying too much. And then that would be sort of okay. Let's have a look. So let's go. I'll just put my next one down and I want to just show you the next bit that happens there. So that's ready to go. So when I've got my third one down, when I come back to that, I know I'm on my bottom left. Don't let your cords go baggy like that. Something I've done there is just caught that and made it go baggy. Keep that so your point of braiding stays tight. It's especially with us needing to widen this point of braiding to get the crystals under. Now, what I'm going to do is just show you something else I do with this project. So we go underneath there and you can see the gorgeous braid that's starting to come through. Now, because this one, I would normally coordinate the cord with it because you do see a little bit of it where it transits between the 6mm and the seed bead. Just give it a little squeeze as well. So I'm holding onto the cord, so I'm not distorting the top too much. And I'm just going to squeeze those 6mm in. It's a funny thing to explain. And some of you might not be too tight with your braiding, so it might not be a massive problem. But there, pop that, squeeze it in, and that just sort of makes them sit a little bit more within the braid. So if you're too tight with your braiding, they can be a bit sort of condensed, but that just helps it to sit neatly. So you can carry on now and come back to it. You've had a look at, you can look underneath to have a look at what you're doing, just to make sure everything's behaving and your beads are sitting in place. But you need to know where to come back to the right section as you come back. Another bead underneath, down, and put that in place. So this is beaded Kumihimo, and this is the teal luster crystal Kumihimo kit that we've got at Riverside Beads. So do pop by to riversidebeads.co.uk and just have a quick look at our new website, and we've got more Kumihimo details on there. We have a page that you can visit that is sort of a bit of education about Kumihimo. And as we get more information online about that, we'll add that into there. Just done a blog on how to add end caps to your Kumihimo as well. So do check out our blog area, and you can see about how to specifically add your end caps and a couple of ways to get that neat. And that's about it. So I'm just down to my last couple of beads that I've loaded, so I won't take you back through the process. And then down like that, and you're good to go. So in like that. Right, okie dokie. So that is good to go. Now I'll just show you underneath again. I've put my third one down, but that was the last bead on there. And in like so, give that a little squish, and that is good to start braiding a bit more. So with your kit you would get the coordinated S-lon, so it's S-lon 0.5, and you can see on the actual sample then it just sort of, you don't quite see the cord as much when you do that, it just blends in, but when you wear it it's absolutely beautiful. Nobody's going to notice the cord transition because it is so small in there. This is quite a forgiving pattern. It may look like one of the complicated patterns, but if you missed a bead or something, it really, if it was a big crystal you might notice it, but it wouldn't massively be the end of the world. You can sew one in after, so it's just the odd one. You could get some needle and thread and pass it, tie it on, pass it through the beads, sew an extra bead in and pass it. If you've left your gap and you've just literally not put it in, that's an option to add it in after. If you do this checking process, what I'm checking for, I turn it. So I'm checking if I've got any gaps is what I'm actually looking for. One, I'm looking how pretty it is, but two, I'm just seeing if there's any obvious gaps where I've missed a bead. And if I have, I could pick it back, and I do have a tendency to want to do that if I spot a mistake in it. So to pick it back, you reverse what you've done. So instead of right to right, okay, we're taking bottom right up, and that move would have been complete. So we reverse it and we take the bottom right up, the top left down. We would need to at some point pick these beads out that we're releasing as well, just to make sure they don't get tangled up. So that, and then back, taking that there. Oh, picking our bead out when we're ready, but sometimes just releasing it like that, and then I have a bad habit of wanting to go the way I go to braid. It wouldn't be the end of the world. You can still reverse it. You just got to flick the way that you do it. So sometimes when you take this one back, that actually releases it again. Yeah, I've gone the same way again. It's habit. I braid a lot and it's just habit to go back, but it wouldn't matter. I'm just trying to show you the reversing process so you can kind of get to grips with how it works there. So yeah, that's that. So I've picked those all out. That would be if you've gone wrong and spotted that you've missed a bead. What you'll find when I teach this as a class, people will often get too far along and go, but I've got 3 beads on that one and I've got 4, I know I've missed one, and then we spot it underneath. So if you do a check every inch or so, picking back an inch isn't too bad for you. And those of you that fancy trying it can leave your beads sat on the top, but sometimes people just find it just gets, as you go to braid, it just gets in a big jumbled mess. If you've got all your beads on top, they all try and fall in. So this process with them on the bobbins works rather well. So do pop by to riversidebeads.co.uk, and we've got all of our, we've got everything separately. So S-on cord, all of your seed beads, a good chunk of them. And if you're local as well, do pop by to the shop, and you can see a slightly bigger range and ever growing online as well. We're in Market Deep in Peterborough in the UK. I know on YouTube and things sometimes, and here on Facebook we get some international viewers too. But yeah, we don't post internationally at the moment, but if you're local you can pop in, and if not you can order for UK delivery. So we've got everything on there, and then it's our teal luster Kumihimo kit, which is currently as at 2021 July, it's £8.50, I believe, and that will make you your bracelet, give you your pattern and everything you need to get going with it. So thank you so much to all of you that are tuned in and watch this back. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well, Riverside Beads. And we do a weekly demonstration on Facebook, and 3:30 tends to be our UK set time, and it will be different techniques which we will advertise on our Facebook page, and if you subscribe to our newsletter. If you don't, do pop by and subscribe to that, and we can keep you updated that way. So the idea is we'll send you what we're doing in our live, so if you want to pop back to it, and then we will you know, if we've got a kit or anything, we can let you know in advance what's there. So thank you so much, everybody. It's been good to see you all today, and I'll see you all again next Wednesday.